So we can let's call it to order and let's do a pledge. Last one in has to lead the pledge.
Ready to begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's do a roll call.
Chair Algauer,
Here.
Vice Chair Hicks. Here. Commissioner Beck.
Here.
Commissioner Chester. Here. Commissioner Higginson.
Here.
Commissioner Snodgrass. Here. And Commissioner Vick.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, and then as
Okay.
part of the roll call, as you'll see on the agenda, is the election of officers. Every year we'll go through the election for both the chair and the vice chair of the Planning Commission. I think probably the easiest format that's worked in the past is starting off with the nomination and then kind of a second vote for the chair, and then we'll go the vice chair and start off the process. So
I'll make a nomination of J.R. Algauer for chair.
I'll second it.
okay, if there's no other nominations, then we'll take a vote for the chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and then now time for the vice chair.
And I'd like to nominate Tony Hicks for vice chair.
I second.
Okay, if there's no more nominations, we'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we don't have to switch seats around, so that makes it easy. And congratulations for continuing as chair and vice chair.
The reign of terror.
Okay, with that, do we have any public comments?
No public comment on items not on the agenda.
Okay, the consent agenda would be the minutes from the December 6th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. I will abstain because I was not at that meeting. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And one abstained.
All right, perfect.
That takes care of number 6, right? Okay, I guess we have one item on the agenda.
There are two. One is a new business architecture review, and the other one is a ordinance. So the item number 2 is case number 23-140, and Christian can provide a staff report for that.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Honorable Chairman and Planning Commissioners. Today I bring before you item number 2, case number 23-140, the architectural review of a 9,000 square foot multi-tenant general commercial facility consisting of 4 units, each approximately comprised of 2,250 square feet, with an associated contractor's yard for each unit to be located at least it's a
Anybody
fun
else?
sound.
No, she said it on my side, so it looked like it was me.
Tony, here's your phone back.
I told you I didn't want to hold that thing.
Okay.
All right. So this might be a little familiar. Last year, you guys did review case number 23-056 at the September 6, 2023 meeting and approved the conditional use or the planning use permit for it. Since then, the applicant has also submitted at the same time as the architectural review, the lot merger, and they're looking to move forward with the project. Here is the east and front elevation of the building. It includes alternating materials and accents to break up the units, mix of horizontal and vertical standing seam metal siding, brick facade and pillars, and faux wood and standing seam awnings to break up each unit. The rear or the west elevation is kind of that back area, which is adjacent to the nursery next door, but they still do continue that brick facade along the rear and alternating the horizontal and vertical standing seam metal siding. Here are the the north and south elevations, as well as the colors and materials that are being proposed. The applicant proposes to use a burnished slate, charcoal gray, and black for the horizontal and vertical standing seam elevations. The landscaping plan that was provided at the time of the architectural review includes perimeter plantings, mixture of ornamental shrubs and trees, some deciduous and some evergreen. Since the conceptual landscaping was provided, some of the engineering constraints for the site required that the WQMP be relocated towards the front of the site, which, as you can see here, it's kind of flipped. There's a little bit more of a landscape buffer along the front. This isn't included in your packet. This is something that came up a little bit more recently, but they intend to use a similar planting palette with a little bit more of a buffer along the front, which I actually think is going to be a nice touch. So that's really it. The applicant is here tonight if you guys have any questions.
Okay, did the applicant like to come forward?
Thank you, Chairman Algar, and congratulations on another term, I guess. I was thinking on my way over here, as long as I've been coming here, you've been the chairman the entire time, so I was thinking, man, that would have been, how weird would that be to not see you, in there rolling your eyes at me.
Asking what you're doing here?
Yeah, exactly. Something about the Seahawks or whatnot, but appreciate seeing you here each time. So I'm glad you're here. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, I'm here for whatever questions. I know Brandon with Metrocom, he's really excited to get this going. We're in the process of doing all the improvement plans for the site right now. That's why Christian is showing this kind of revised layout. Ultimately, I think it's going to look better by having that additional landscaping towards the front with the basin. I'm open to any questions. I hope you guys had a happy holiday season and Happy New Year's.
Oh, now he's buttering us up.
Have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I have a whole list of questions here for you.
Okay.
Oh, I'm just joking.
Did the footprint of the building change? Because it says 9,000 feet in the readout, but that totals, I guess, never mind. I ran out of fingers. I was thinking there was 5 units there.
If anything, there might be like a couple inches on each side that might get reduced, but nothing significant.
I was looking at 2,000 square feet and I thought there's 5 units and I'm thinking something's not math in here, but it totally is. I'm the issue. Yeah. And I'm getting over a cold.
Anything else?
I have a quick question, Chairman. Go ahead, sir. I guess just as an architectural review, obviously looking at the color palettes, I know our exhibits were pretty, I don't know, the colors seem to be very close to each other. I guess we didn't get a good representation. I know, especially as an architect and looking at architectural review, seeing that contrast in a building or having colored elevations always seems to be an added assist to the council or to the commission just to see what that looks like. So I just want to make sure that there's enough delineation on this. It doesn't look like a big gray building. I think the development is nice. I went by the site and obviously there's some nice frontage and all the fencing that everybody's been put in. So I think it's a great development. I just want to make sure that we have that color delineation or those finishes that look, as far as representing those elements. The massing and everything looks good to me. It's just, the palette looks like it's all gray, shades of gray. But anyway, so just, I don't know, I don't get too many shades of gray there, so just from a standpoint of working with staff to make sure that those, I think, are addressed and the colors are kind of cohesive to the elements.
Absolutely.
That's all.
I think that moody color palette's kind of a trend now, right? That real dark and gloomy with red brick. It is a thing. Like it looks.
The darker colors are a trend, but yeah, it just didn't see a lot of definition on that. So
Maybe
that's
I-
just the architect in me. Sorry.
The owner is and me too. I mean, we're the old it's DKC now. It's Markarian building, and the Gold State Glazy buildings. Those are kind
Yes.
of, I think, good examples, of metal buildings, especially in a commercial environment. And so those are kind of what we take as inspiration for this.
Okay.
As well as, because he processed a metal building earlier last year for his home. And
Right.
so it'll be a similar kind of color palette. You know, he likes that darker shades
Okay.
and look, so.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. It's always personal. Just always like to see colored renderings. Anyway, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment? Nothing? Okay. With that, we can close the public hearing, and we'll just move to the commissioners. Commissioners, anyone have something, questions, motions?
I'll motion to approve this project.
I'll second it.
We got a motion and a second. Hear anything else? Okay, with that, take a roll. And we can just do, all those in favor say aye.
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 Unanimous. Okay,
Leave her out of this.
yeah, keep her out of it. Planning Commission meeting, okay, we did that. Okay, let's, the city ordinance, is that what we're doing?
Yep, so, yeah, well, we can open up the meeting, the public hearing, and this is ordinance number 439, which is amending the city's sign code provisions related to creating kind of content-neutral sign provisions for temporary signs. I don't have a presentation slide just because it's, I would say, probably easier just to talk about the changes. Kind of a long story short, the city's sign code has been in effect for a very long time. It's kind of an odd layout in how things are kind of shown in the sign code, different parts. So for the temporary signs, you have some provisions that are listed under prohibited signs. You have some listed under primary directional signs. And then you have some other kind of temporary sign reference locations. So it's not necessarily the easiest to navigate. And then one of the big challenges that has occurred kind of since the sign code's been in effect is the Reed versus Gilbert decision out of Arizona that went to the Supreme Court. And really that focused on a content neutral approach. So in the sign code that we have now, it says political signs or advertising signs and other stuff. And really from a sign code perspective, we're not able to make that distinction in how we regulate the signs. It really is, where's the sign going, what's the size, and is it tied to something that is temporary or permanent? And that really is kind of the limits of what we are able to regulate, which does make it a little bit tough to kind of create temporary sign regulation since we as probably lay people reference or understand signs in the context that they're being used. If it is for, let's say, election season or holiday decorations, or someone wants to put a flag on their property, or whatever that case may be, you know, the signs used for you know, yard sales or the real estate signs. And so being able to craft a ordinance that kind of provides a lot of the usability that we as residents in a community want to be able to do with the signs if we do have a yard sale or open house or some sort of kind of free expression of our First Amendment rights, but making sure that it also is something that is content neutral, that way we in the code enforcement side of kind of regulating this stuff can actually tie stuff together that is not a violation of that Supreme Court ruling of that. And so the sign code has been kind of revised to remove a lot of the temporary sign references in these different subsections, like prohibited signs, which wouldn't normally make sense, consolidates it into a temporary sign ordinance section that specifically regulates the temporary signs. It provides images of different sign types and sizes that qualify for that type. And then in that temporary sign ordinance lists when those signs are allowed on different properties. So commercial properties that may want, you know, an A-frame sign or something like that for their site advertising or a banner versus a residence that you're not going to put a banner on a home for advertising, but you may want to have your bid Santa display for Christmas. And so it creates kind of tailored standards for those respective locations and then really adds to what the city's sign code regulations were already. For those that are in the real estate kind of world, one of the kind of notable changes is there's some provisions for directional signs for like the open house signs Those that do real estate in Yucaipa probably get annoyed with code enforcement that most of their signs that they put up are not allowed and get taken down. And so this provides kind of clear expectations of where it's allowed in the public right of way without blocking sidewalks, but also allows them to do that. So it actually adds a little bit more freedom for that particular use, but all the other kind of activities stay kind of within the same realm that they were before, but removes that content kind of context that we had before to make sure that we're compliant with the Supreme Court's ruling on the constitutionality of sign regulations. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So when you say real estate signs are kind of in a separate area, so okay, they put up a for sale sign. Well, what we see a lot of for open houses, we see agents putting up balloons. Well, that we always been told that's a no-no. But there's nothing I could see in the ordinance that would address that issue.
So the large balloons themselves are under the prohibited sign section, so that hasn't been removed. A lot of it for the open houses, they'll put up the signs, let's say, hey, we have an open house in Chapman Heights, so we're gonna have some on Oakland Road and Chapman Heights, Road or something like that. And so there's no actual provisions that allow for that type of directional signage for an event. So whether it be for open house or yard sale, this is what the sign that's allowed to be placed there. It does happen to conform to what most real estate signs are anyways. But it spells those regulations out in a much more objective and kind of neutral approach.
Well, this is the history. What we were having at the Board of Realtors was people putting up open house signs, and then they run out balloons. Well, the balloon's blowing in the air, somebody's pulling out of a spot, and they can't see because of the balloon.
Yeah.
So that's why I was all for it when I was on the board to eliminate balloons, because it can be a hazard.
Yeah, the balloons would remain prohibited as they are under the existing sign code, and it does specify, especially for the signs, that it does need to be securely fastened to the ground so that, like, if a wind blows, it does not blowing the sign into the street or into a car or something of that sort too.
Okay, that's all I have.
The section F that's redacted, it just talks about size and length of time it can be up. It says not to be displayed for more than 60 consecutive days or 180 days per calendar year.
This is for the banner and flags. Yeah, so that whole section was removed because this was providing the temporary sign regulations for banner and flags, but in the prohibited sign section.
So is there a permanent banner section in the, so if we remove that, does that allow for people to have banners up all year now?
No, so the regulations, so under the temporary signs, so the new 87.0735, when it goes into the non-residential land use district, B, there's a call out for banner signs, and it talks about the duration of it, of the 60 days and 180 days, and then the temporary flag banner permit.
So there's an overlap somewhere else in the ordinance that takes care of that provision?
Yeah, so the provisions are still there, it's just now in a spot for where temporary signs are, rather than you having to look in the prohibited sign section.
And for those you know what section it's in, that the length of time is still, a permit is still needed?
Yeah, so it's still 60 days, no more than 180 days per calendar year. And then it does specify period display between 30 days, and then it does identify the permit requirement. So the banner that would have been allowed is still allowed, and the process is the same. It's just in its own, is under the temporary sign section of the sign code versus prohibited signs.
Okay.
Are you still mandating businesses to have regular signs then? They can't have banners for their signage?
So technically, there is no requirement in the city's development code that a business have a sign. So they don't necessarily need to do a permanent sign if they don't want to. In the city's user fee study, there is a provision that if a new business comes in with that new business license, they can get a discount for the banner permit to put it up while they're getting their permanent sign done. And then they'll take the banner down, the temporary sign construction, with something that's permanent.
Okay.
Yep.
Ben, on the permit requirement for construction sign, it says a temporary use permit will be required.
Yeah, so that would be kind of like the big, hey, this is a new development coming along.
A 4x8.
Yeah, and so that has been the case already. Normally, we group that temporary use permit with, if they're doing like a model sales, that trailer, or if they have some sort of like supervisor trailer. And so we try to encourage applicants to do all of them under one permit, but that process is still in place. But yeah, it would follow that, and we try to encourage them to say, hey, you're under construction, show us where you're gonna have your equipment trailer. If you're gonna do model homes, where's that parking lot? And then, hey, show us where you're gonna put the signs on, and then you can do that all under one application versus 3 separate ones for each part.
Okay. What's the cost of a temporary use permit if you're gonna do one for that sign?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay.
We just updated that.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
We just updated the fee schedule. It just took
Okay.
effect at end of November, so we're all kind of like,
Okay. Just curious.
there is a separate temporary use permit for signs specifically though, so that one is a little bit cheaper, but again, like Ben said, we typically try to put it all on the same application, so.
Yeah. And then you said something about political signs. I didn't catch what that, where does that fall under now?
So there is no political sign provisions. There is, depending on what the size of sign is and if it's tied to an event. So if there's a regularly scheduled type event coming up, let's say like an election, then it would follow that timeline provisions. And then the signs themselves that you normally see, the provisions would be the same. So if someone wants to put it at their house, it needs to be a small sign. If they're gonna put up on like a bid sign on a commercial site, they need to have the authorization from the property owner and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
all that stuff kind of remains
Nothing
the same, but
changes.
we're not calling out one type of activity versus another. It's just merely, there's an event coming up, you're gonna put up a sign for it, and whatever you put in the sign is all the same, so.
And garage sale signs, any change in that, or?
It would fall under the directional signs for like the real estate.
I don't want to put Pam out of business
Yeah.
on Monday morning.
No, so if anything, it will provide better clarity for people and say, if you do this, code enforcement's not gonna be an issue. Since I know that sometimes is a point of contention with realtors and stuff, and we really didn't have anything in creating when we had looked into that issue before with the Reed versus Gilbert. It really makes it really tough to try to create tailored standards for one activity versus another. We're not able to do it, but most people associate the different stuff, and so it's not an easy way to write a sign code, but it's what the lay of the land is, and so we wanted to make sure that we were in conformance with that.
I think the biggest thing is like a lot of the restaurants that put up the banners
Yeah.
that, I know it's supposed to be a certain period of time, but they tend to have them all the time.
Yeah.
That's where my line of questioning was going, making sure people couldn't just strap one to the front of a building and call it good forever.
Yeah.
So on special events that if somebody's having, they can put up these banners. Do they need a permit for that when they're on private property or whatever?
Yeah, so if they're putting up a banner, they would still need the banner permit.
Oh, okay, all right. I have nothing else. Anyone else have any?
I'm just curious, Ben, from the standpoint of the large billboard marquee sign that's on the freeway. And again, part of that is I'm trying to read that. I'm not sure it says City of Yucaipa on it, so I believe it's in the city limits. From the standpoint, where did that kind of fall into this criteria? Because obviously I'm looking at permanent billboards that are used to advertise a business, but if they're located on some other property, and this is a advertising different
Yeah.
businesses, so it's got the neon lights. So where does that fall into this sign code provision?
So there is a separate section under the primary signs, that when those billboard applications came in, we had added a code section that specifically regulated billboard type activities.
Okay.
So all the existing static billboards have remained and still remain legal non-conforming. But there was provision set up for on privately owned property, 3 billboards that could be constructed that were digital displays. And so that code section isn't being modified with this, since we're
Okay.
just dealing with the temporary sign. But that's considered as a kind of permanent primary sign, since the primary activity for that site or for that sign is, for the sign itself, it's not to provide advertising for a business on site. It's purely an advertising for the sake of advertising.
Okay. I was just curious, because now that I'm looking at that, I'm going, I remember that big old billboard sign on that freeway, so I guess I'll go up. Thank you, Ben.
Okay, anyone else have anything for staff? We have any motions, suggestions?
I'll make a motion.
Huh?
Do you need a motion?
And there's no public comments on this item.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself.
So are we sending a recommendation to
City council, yes.
city council? So what we're looking for is a consensus that we are in okay with this project, right?
Yep, a formal vote saying that we recommend approval of the ordinance to city council.
So let's do all those in favor of recommending it to city council.
We need a
Say
motion.
aye.
So is that David Higginson or Commissioner Higginson's motion then?
I'll make a motion to,
Oh, okay, go
I'll
ahead.
second it.
sorry, I got ahead of myself.
Stacy said.
Okay, we got a motion in a second. Now, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, sending it over? Nope, so I think you're not unanimous.
All right. All right, so that is all the items for tonight. Happy New Year, everyone. Looking forward to another fun year. We will have a few fun planning commission meetings that will be happening soon. I would say, so one of the big kind of controversial items that will be coming for the planning commission will be the wine country specific plan. There was a town hall meeting done in December that was recorded. I would encourage all the planning commissioners and anyone in the public to watch that video, just because it does give a pretty lengthy overview of the plan, the history, what the goal was through the community outreach, and then some questions. There'll be another town hall on Thursday of next week at 6 o'clock at the Yucaipa 2, but it's a pretty good refresher that for everyone. I did forward out the MN or the EIR for that project has been received for everyone too. That is available, so it's a bid document, so it may be helpful to get ahead of it. So then that way, once we take it to Planning Commission, you guys are all ready to go for a very fun event-filled night. And
Ben, are we going to get some training on the new housing laws that took effect Monday?
there will be some resources provided. Yeah, we will be following up with that at a subsequent meeting.
What does resource provided mean?
We'll
That we're
probably
gonna have to sit and read it on our own and then come in and try and understand it? Or
No, we'll have a meeting that focuses, or a item study session that'll focus on that one, so
Okay.
we're ready, yep.
Thank you.
That's all I got.
Okay.
You said
Next
that,
meeting, Ben.
I'm just curious that the information on the wine-specific plan, you said you sent that out, or it's gonna be,
So I believe
It's on the website, I think.
the environmental review, if you didn't receive it, I can send, it's on the city's website, but I can resend it to everyone.
how about just an all-encompassing resource to kind of dive into?
Yeah, so we actually have a page on the city's planning page about the wine country specific plan. But the video that is on the city's YouTube page, it was from December 12th, does provide, it shows me doing a presentation to residents with a PowerPoint slide in the background too, that you can kind of see, so.
Was there open forum discussion in that too, or was it just like educational?
No, so there was a question and answer
Okay.
with that meeting as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't talk to many people, but if I can get a grasp on what the major complaints are it just helps to balance the viewpoint on it.
Sounds good. That's all I
Okay,
got.
with that, do you have any other, when, we having a meeting this month again?
I think we'll probably have one in first week of February. So,
Okay. Cool. With that, I hate to do this, but meeting adjourned.
Bigger stack next time.
Yeah, I know. I looked over there. Where are they?